Oh, howdy, students. It's a good day. Let's read our new story. Now, remember, we're talking a lot about refugees, so I'm going to try and explain more about refugees and give you some more information about maybe kind of the process that I'm aware of and to help you understand kind of the conditions they go through. Okay, so first, we got to do the vocabulary, and you guys know how that is. Okay. A symbol, this is this word right here, a symbol, is an object or person that represents something else. For example, a stop sign. Even if you don't know how to read, you recognize the shape, and that shape, the octagon, is a symbol to stop. If it's a red octagon, you know you need to stop, okay? So it represents something. What is a symbol of your country? A symbol of my country is the American flag. It represents America. But you could do all kinds of things. So you will have an opportunity to write your own, and you could be anything. You could say something like Donald Trump's hair right now is a symbol of our country. You could say the bald eagle. You could say American pie. You could say dollar bills. You could say all kinds of things. So I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. Okay. The next word is define. Define. This was a tough word to try and boil it down. I think I got it. To blank a person or thing correctly and thoroughly. So basically, to define something means to explain it. Explain a person or thing correctly and thoroughly. So, how would you define yourself? Now, of course, people are like, define this, define that. Okay, I would define myself as someone who is, now this is my own example, as someone who is marginally insane. You guys can write whatever you want there. Okay, now make sure you have your example. You need to have your own example. Make sure you guys put those in there. Okay, now some context for the story. This is about a soccer team, and it's interesting because at first when I was looking at this, I wasn't sure where it took place, and apparently it takes place in Maine, which is a very interesting thing because I don't know if you guys know much about Maine, but Maine's pretty far north. It's cold in the winters, and it's mostly white people. So these refugees represent a significant change, okay, to the community. All right. Lewiston High School's soccer team isn't like others. Sure, it's one of the best in the nation, but it's also almost entirely rostered. Rostered means you could say team, by refugees. Read ahead to learn how a team of refugees became a symbol. Means that it represents the changing town. Stop. You're better than that. Coach Mike McGraw barks at his players on the first day of soccer tryouts. Battle, push-ups if you lose. These are the defending state champs. The first in McGraw's 34 seasons as head coach at Lewiston High School, and he pushes them relentlessly. This word means, like, never stops. So he never stops pushing them through drill after drill on a sizzling hot morning last week. No one seems to mind. Not the Somali boys, who made up the bulk of the team, not the players from Kenya, not the ones from Chad or Angola or Ethiopia or Rwanda, Playing soccer on a field of lush Maine grass is a gift. A dream, really, compared with the refugee camps where many of the boys once lived. Okay, now I've pulled up some pictures. Now, this here is a refugee camp. These look like they might actually be Somalis or Syrians. Okay, and this one's actually a pretty nice one. Okay, so if we remember from a previous text, refugees are caused by war, violence, poverty, famine, which is lack of food. So the process usually is you have to go and seek asylum you go to the camp, and with the intention of going through the paperwork, being evaluated, and waiting for the opportunity to be admitted by a country who's taking refugees. For the U.S., you have to fill out some papers. You have to meet certain criteria, like you have to be fleeing war, be prosecuted for some kind of minority group, and you have to wait. So some of these kids, like this girl here, her whole life for 5-6 years might be sitting at this refugee camp. Okay. So that's what they live and experience for years, usually. Very few people um, get through them immediately. It takes them a long time for their paperwork and the doctors, and sometimes they're just not taking enough. Like, for example, the United States takes maybe 100,000 refugees a year, but we know that there are millions out there. So this is life for a great many of them. Here you go. Here's a big one. Just to see you tense. So it's actually a nice one. This is what most of them are like right here. Crappy huts, terrible conditions. Really just people hoping. Okay. So that's where the boys came from. The refugee camps. This is the countries they came from. Here's Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, Tanzania is over here somewhere. See, I was trying to find Rwanda earlier. So they're coming from this part here. Now, I don't know if you guys know anything about Somalia or Ethiopia. They're run by warlords. And they hoard food from the people, and they reward people who follow them with food and stability, and everyone else they rob and steal from. Somalia doesn't even have a functioning government at all right now. It's basically run by pirates. So Kenya is just extreme poverty. So they're coming from some pretty bad places, okay, with some pretty serious violence. I remember when I was younger, I was like 20. I think it may have been in one of these countries. I'm trying to remember, but there was an ethnic cleanse. Call it genocide is the word for that. So a group, I think it may have been right over here somewhere, one of those countries, where one ethnic group decided that the other one didn't deserve to live, and so they sought to destroy them all. So they used the military, and they started burning down villages and shooting people in the streets. It was pretty bad. And so some of these boys might come from that kind of an environment. So this is just to help you understand why they're refugees, most likely, and where they came from. We're talking about pretty serious things. A lot of destitution, war, extreme levels of violence. Not everywhere here's Angola, and on the continent of Africa is like that. Most of these countries are just boring old regular countries, but some of them have some serious struggles. Okay, so keep that in mind as we read about these boys, so you can help you understand where they come from, right? So for them, coming from the refugee camp, having an actual soccer field's awesome. Okay, we'll keep reading here. He motivates you, co-captain Malid Abdou, a Somali refugee, said of McGrath. If you feel like you're not having a good day, it becomes a great day. Every day feels great for the Lewiston High soccer team, which ranked as high as 17th in the nation at one point last season. But its success extends far beyond the scoreboard. The Africans who grew up in a land where soccer is king, and one of the few joys amid hardship, dominate the squad. 10 of the 11 starters last year were Somalis, chattering in their native language as they darted around the field. And they are widely credited for building ties between the 7,000 refugees who live here and the longtime residents who once resisted them. Okay, it's a really important word, resisted. You guys know what resist means. It means to try and halt or stop something from happening. Okay, that's what resist is, to fight back. So these people at first were not okay with all these refugees coming. Okay, it is a team defined less by its excellence than its example of unity. This can be a seed that can grow, said McGrath, a 66-year-old biology teacher. Time will tell whether it grows or stays the same. Okay. The key idea. How is Lewiston High's soccer team different from other high school soccer teams? Well, we saw that right at the beginning. It is made up of almost all refugees. Okay. Reread paragraphs 6 through 8. What is the seed McGrath refers to, and what would happen if it grows? So one part is finding out what the seed is. The other part is using our thinking, inferring brains to figure out what what would happen if it grows. Okay. Every day feels great now for the Lewiston High soccer team, which ranked as high as 17th in the nation at one point last season. But its success extends far beyond the scoreboard. The Africans who grew up in a land where soccer is king and one of few joys amid hardship dominate the squad. 10 of 11 starters last year were Somalis, chattering in their native language as they darted around the field. And they are widely credited for building ties. So this, to me, is probably related to the seed, that they are widely credited with building ties between the 7,000 refugees who live here and longtime residents who resisted them. It is a team defined less by its excellence than by its example of unity. This can be a seed that can grow. So I think that's the seed right there, said McGrath, a 66-year-old biology teacher. Time will tell whether it grows or stays the same. Okay, so my text evidence is from paragraph 7, so I'm going to write paragraph 7. And it basically says, building unity between the refugees and native residents. What could happen if it grows? They'll have a unified community. That's my prediction. You can write your own. You can steal that. Okay, why is Coach McGrath important to the Somali refugees on the team? This is an interesting idea. One that's, this is an inference, okay? So I'm going to talk about some important things. He's the coach. He's old. He demands excellence. And he plays the boys. This one you'll have to do on your own. I'm excited to hear what you can do. What the reason why I brought those things up is so you could think about them, while you try to figure out why he's important to the team. Okay, so we'll continue this. It'll be in the Nearpod, either as its own Nearpod or in the super Nearpod I'm trying to build. We'll go through, and you'll have the opportunity to look at the video pretty much as much as you want to try and get some of the answers done. All right. I'll see you in the next video.